So they found 3 skeleton remains of Africans who were brought to Latin America, definitely the Mexico area, central Mexico, about their enslavement that happened about 500 years ago. Now you understand, Spain brought African slaves to Mexico as well. Understand? So they just wasn't brought to the Caribbean, the Americas. We were brought everywhere. And our presence in Latin America is very, very deep rooted. And, you know, this particular discovery helps talk about that. So originally they found, you know, a mass grave in 1992 in Mexico City, and they was chronicling some of that journey even when they first discovered it. Now, they said the Africans who were transported to Latin America and when they was enslaved by 500 years ago, said the bones display evidence, it said, of fractures, gunshot wounds, and the men's introduction of infectious disease. It said during the enslavement in central Mexico. Yes, we were slaves in Mexico as well. That is part of our story, right? So they had published a study in April the 30th, just not too long ago, and it paints a picture of the many lives that our African ancestors had during the early Spanish colonization and how their presence may have shaped disease dynamics in the New World, according to the study, right? So it said, using a cross-disciplinary approach, it said we unravel the life history of 3 otherwise voiceless individuals who belong to one of the most oppressed groups in the history of the Americas. OK, so they said that the remains of the 3 individuals found at the site of the ancient San Jose de los Naturales Royal Hospital, Mexico City, say a hospital founded in the early 1500s to serve in the indigenous community, which had been decimated by the time King Charles I of Spain authorized the importation of Africans to Spanish colonies as slaves in 1518. OK, so they were saying new analysis, it remains, contributes to the study of African migration to Mexico during the 16th and 17th centuries, and point to almost why all Mexicans carry a small amount of African ancestry. And they know that. Let's talk about that. There's always a grandmother somewhere down the line, grandfather or whoever, who are black like me in a lot of Mexican people's families. And a lot of them don't like to talk about that grandmother or that grandfather somewhere down the line. Understand? Now, when we had Christine on the show and she talks about the mindset in the Dominican Republic, well, that same mindset being attached to the Spanish and colorism plays a big part even in Mexico or Latin America to this day. You know, I was discussing with my wife about, you know, before I did this story, just about history. And, you know, even now, 2020, you have a real dark skinned Mexican, you know, they're called Indio. That's what they're called. And that term isn't a nice term. You know, saying, oh, you dark skinned, you like more so the indigenous people. Well, what's wrong with being indigenous people? What is wrong with being dark skinned? What's wrong with that? But all that came in with the white Latino, because that's considered white Latinos from Spain. That came in with them. They brought all that mess there and they try to continue it. So the battle that you have in Latin America, what, you know, I'm studying all this more and more and more. We've had definitely even their whole culture, and we'll talk about this a little later, how their culture is so infused that come from us and what we have presented. Even certain foods and dances they're doing now came from us, right? And even you look at Cinco de Mayo itself, the Battle of Pueblo. I mean, we fought that. They reenact that in blackface. You know, so we have definitely had a big presence all over the place in Latin America, not even just the Dominican Republic. But let's talk about these people that they found, because we need to know the history of everything. It's a lot of deep history where black people being in Mexico, how we helped fight and liberate, how the first president of Mexico was black, Vicente Guerrero. They know that. They know that. It's not like they don't know. But continuing, they're saying that having Africans in central Mexico so early during the colonial period tells us a lot about the dynamics at that time. So they were saying that, and since they were found in this mass burial site, they said these individuals likely died in one of the first epidemic events in Mexico City. So they said the bones told them that, these, people had a hard toil and injuries once researchers extracted the genetic and isotope data from the individual's teeth, and they got a better idea of how long they had lived in their homeland, in which African regions they were from. So according to the genetics, they say that they were born in Africa. They said they were spent all their youth there. They say our evidence points to either a Southern or Western African origin before being transported to the Americas. Let me stop right there, because the majority of you really believe all of us is from West Africa. Not all of us is from West Africa. Some of us came from East Africa. Some of us came from the southern part of Africa. Some of us came from North Africa. Some of us came from Central Africa. Slaves was taken and they were shipped out from West Africa, but it doesn't mean that's exactly where we come from. Because why is it that I can go to West Africa and people look like me? I can go to East Africa like a Uganda or Kenya and people look like me. I can go to South Africa and people look like me. How is it I'm looking like all these different people? I can go to Central Africa and people look like me. And I don't know why people just say that, West Africa, West Africa. Man, the whole continent is who we are. So never forget that. I don't get involved in no geographical location. I say go where God put you at, go where your heart says to go in the continent. That's what I say. But I believe the whole continent is for black people. That's how I feel about it. Now, it says that one of the skeletal remains is they had a remnants of a gunshot wound from copper bullets, while another had a series of skull and leg fractures. Because, our people's beaten very heavily and they work so hard. They said, but according to, the expert, they say the abuse did not end their lives, though. They say within their research, it said they can tell they survived maltreatment that they received. They say their story is one of difficulty, but also strength. But although they suffered a lot, they persevered and were resistant to the changes forced upon them. Now they say the remains also document the earliest signs in Latin America of hepatitis B and another contagious skin disease similar to syphilis. Because, when they came over here and even the exposure they had got to Europeans, there were new diseases even came into the African continent. Do your research on that. Same thing when the Europeans came over here with the Native Americans. They brought new disease. And a lot of times the disease wiped people out more so than them killing them off or fighting wars. I mean, if you just do the research on that. So it said that they found an individual that was infected with hepatitis B virus. They say while another was infected with a bacterium that caused yaws, which is similar to syphilis. They say our analysis suggested that both individuals contracted their infections before they were likely forcibly brought to Mexico. Because, when you come in contact with these different people that wasn't there in the African continent, like the sister said from Ghana, tuberculosis wasn't in the African continent. All these different diseases were never there. They brought it there. So they said the revelation also has been extremely significant in research that suggests that the impact of yaws, a chronic bacterial infection that affects the skin, bone, and cartilage, which was very common among Mexicans during that time period. They say it was possible that yaws was not only brought into the Americas through the introduction of the slave trade, it said, but it may consequently have had a considerable impact on the dynamics of in Latin America. Understand? So it said that, however, one of the discovery was certain. It brought a lot of answers to a few deep-rooted questions about Mexican culture. Okay? So it says that we want to get insights on how the pathogens emerged and spread through the colonial period in New Spain, but we also want to continue to explore the life stories of the Africans brought here in other parts of America. So that way we can take more visible place in Latin American history. But you have to understand, like that drink they drink called horchata, that rice drink. Do you understand that even come from West Africa? It comes from what you call tiger nuts. They would make that drink. And since they didn't have access to tiger nuts, they made it out of rice. If you look at a lot of the dances they're doing, all your merengues, your bachatas and all of that, if you do the research on all those Latin American dances, they come from us and what we brought in there. If you look at even in Brazil, you look at all of the, they talk about carnival, all of that came from us. You get what I'm saying? And that wasn't for no celebration. It was more so for spiritual reasons why they would wear the big headdresses and all of that. I mean, it's like I said, we are so infused, like I said, in Latin America. We are the blueprint of Latin America. But you see people, you know, in Latin America that can't stand black folk. Can't stand black folk. But the thing is, how you can't stand a part of who you already are? You get what I'm saying? You got a group of black folks that say in Dominican Republic, not all, but some that say, I'm not black, you know, and when we're looking at your face, say, well, how do you think what do you think your ancestors come from? Come from Africa. What are you talking about? Then you have some, like you say, in Mexico, you got straight up ancestors, dark like I don't know what. Some of them could be dark as me or look like me, but they don't want to talk about that. Like, my thing is, how will you have any hate of something that you are literally connected to? That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it. You get what I'm saying? But black folks have participated heavy in even helping fight for Mexico. There's a lot of black folks that fought in the Mexican army. See, a lot of black people used to escape slavery in Texas. And then they would come, and a lot of times Mexico would take them in because a lot of brothers was down there. And when the slave masters would come to try to get their slaves back, the Mexican army would run those white slave masters out. You understand? So we all infused in Latin American culture. You still got black folks in Mexico that live there. I think they say there's a little over a million or so Afro-Latinos there that's been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. So when people say, yes, we have been all over the place. You got the Olmecs there. You got the pyramids in Mexico. Yes, our presence is definitely in Mexico and all the way in Latin America, for sure. So I always tell people, you know, you found the footsteps of the white supremacists, but, you know, we are heavily infused into a lot of y'all cultures. And my thing is, well, why have any issue with us? We ain't the one, you know, taking advantage of your land. We're not taking your resources from you. We're not doing anything to you like that. We don't even have the power to do that to you. Africa is not doing that to you whatsoever. Now, you look at Cuba. We was all in Cuba as well. You know, all the islands black people were at. And we got along with anybody that we came across. If you do the research, we never tried to come in and commit genocide against any group of people. That's not who we were. And that's still not who we are today. We're not trying to commit genocide against any group of people. But yet black people is hated everywhere they go. And you ask a person, well, why y'all hate black people? Nobody can really pinpoint to, yes, black people, they slaughtered our whole race. Or black people, they put a bunch of diseases in no, they can't point that out to us. We never did it. We've always tried to be everybody's friend to a fault. We try to be everybody's friend. Even in America, when you talk about black and brown and all of that, as black people saying, we're trying to say, hey, we understand. And the reason why black and brown even came up, too, is because black people understood the history of that. They understood that we have a big presence in Latin America. A lot of their culture come from us. So, yeah, a lot of black people say, no, that's my brown brothers, man. I mean, we all kind of connected. But it's the more and more the ones that came over who don't want no connection with black people, who say like, F black people. I don't like black people, you know, but yeah, you'll like black people, but you listen to rap music. I don't understand that either. That's the funny part. You don't like black people, but you're using all black people slang and lingo. You're trying to dress like brothers, act like brothers, but you don't like black people. I don't get that. Like, shouldn't you be listening to your music? I mean, you guys have a style of dress. Shouldn't you be dressing the way you dress? You get what I'm saying? I'm just saying for those who don't like black people, not saying everybody who don't. I have to ask those questions. And now black people are kind of pissed off now. They say, well, look, we fought for everybody else, even people who are extended cousins, because if we're talking about historically, you consider them like an extended cousin, maybe not a direct family member like the Africans or the Caribbeans could be, but hey, definitely an extended cousin, a third and fourth cousin. You don't want to be the third and fourth cousin. You saying forget black people. And that's why a lot of black people say, well, nah, we ain't fighting for nobody no more. We on our own. But I'm just talking about what's history, what's going on. Not everybody's not on that. You get what I'm saying? Everybody is not on that. I know that. I know a lot of people in Latin American culture and Latin American countries is very, very cool with me. And I'm cool with them. I say, I feel that way. This is why I tell people, You cool with me, I'm cool with you. I don't care where you come from, even if you're black. If you don't like me, I don't like you either. Because not every black person is for me like that. But we have to understand our history goes deep. It's just not in America. It's just not in the Caribbean. It's just not in the continent of Africa. We have history all over the world. Remember when they talk about even in Europe, Cheddar Man, first European. All these so-called European countries, black folks were the founders of all of this. Because we spread out throughout the world. We the original man, original woman. So of course, we got history everywhere. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this particular story about the brothers and sisters who definitely went through it in Mexico. And, you know, they definitely had a lot of contributions there in the foods and dances, etc. But, you know, hey, we definitely going to learn this history because in school they didn't teach us crap. And every day as I learned more and more and more, I say though the biggest waste of my time ever was attending public school.